Alright guys, welcome, and what we're going to do today is basically present an introductory level course to artificial intelligence and Chat GPT. Now, what's going to come after this little clip is basically some material and courses that I put together for my private clients, my community, and my high-level mastermind. And I really just felt like this information needed to get out and be shared. So what you're going to get familiar with over the course of the next hour maybe is what is artificial intelligence at a high level, an introduction on how to use Chat GPT and how it can be used in many different use cases like learning, education, business, and studying as well. So the reason I'm sharing this is our goal at Futureproof is basically to help tech professionals, anybody that is in a knowledge-based career, a white-collar career, to be a part of this utopian society that artificial intelligence promises, to make sure that they have the place in this rapidly changing job market that is going to be innovating at a pace that people are really underestimating with how fast technology is moving. So if you are looking to get into the tech field, if you are looking to survive the massive amounts of layoffs that are coming, or if you're looking to start your own business or businesses with AI, then this channel is for you. I'm going to have a lot more material coming if it's not already up. So if you get any value from what I'm sharing, go ahead, like, share, subscribe. And if you really want to get actionable steps and you want results fast in changing your career and really rise the tide that is going to be this AI economy, then check out the links below in the description. We have some private coaching. And now let's get into the good stuff. Welcome, and today we're going to be talking about Chat GPT, and we're just going to be touching on the basics. We're going to look at how it works, how you can use it in your professional, personal life, and how you can use it every day as well. My name is Adrian Monax. I've been a software engineer for about 8 years, an artificial intelligence engineer for half of that, working with startups. And now I own Rock Studios, which does about $20,000 in revenue a month, working with startups and building proof of concepts. So what I really want to start with today is looking at Chat GPT and what exactly it is as a product. You can think of it as a virtual assistant that you can use to respond to queries, questions. It can give you ideas, and it can help you come up with useful ways of thinking about things that maybe you haven't really considered before. And what really makes this product exceptional and new is that it does it in a conversational way. For example, you can use Chat GPT to explain a topic, draft a series of scripts for you, or answer emails. It's like having a helpful partner and a coworker that brings creativity, problem solving, and reasoning to the table, unlike any other software product before it. The reason this product has been gaining so much popularity for the past 2 years is because it's adaptable to most situations, is versatile, and it doesn't require any sort of technical skills in order to use. As a matter of fact, when it was launched in November of 2022, it quickly captured the public's attention and it reached 1 million users in just 5 days. This is more than Facebook, Instagram, and any other app before it. Now, with 200 million users, it is still one of the fastest growing applications in history. And the interesting part is, as of February of 2024, this year, only 25% of people use the application. This allows you to have a massive advantage in areas like education, creative endeavors, and in your business. When it comes to the professional context, you can use ChatGPT to draft emails, to do personal scripting for you, to help come up with ideas. And when you want to do something a bit more creative, something a bit more related to the arts, you can use it to create images, videos, and come up with entire stories for you. So let's take a second and look at exactly how ChatGPT works, but we're going to break it down into simple terms. You can think of this as a really advanced autocomplete. It was trained on a collection of texts, articles, websites, and pretty much all of the written information on the internet. And the way that it does this autocomplete and gives you really sophisticated responses is it breaks down syllables, words, sentences into mathematical equations that are then used to calculate probabilities of what the next word is going to be in the sentence or in the phrase. This is called these are deep neural networks, and more commonly these are referred to as large language models. So when you type something into ChatGPT, what it basically does is it looks at the patterns that it has encountered during training, and it predicts how a normal human would respond based on what it has seen before. It doesn't really think, but what it does is it maps out a statistical distribution of what is most likely and what is the most logical reply. So a really great example is when ChatGPT sees a sentence that says the dog jumped over, it's presented with a couple of different options. A couple of the next words could be fence or Grand Canyon. Now, the large language model has seen more examples in its training data in the websites, books, text that says the dog jumped over the fence more than it's seen the dog jumped over the Grand Canyon. So it's going to go with fence as the option. And this leads to a lot of odd behavior, but it also leads to really human sounding outputs because it relies on all of the existing human created text, right? The culmination of human knowledge. And with this approach, there are some limitations. It gives strange words, but all it really is at the basics is a bundle of calculations. And sometimes it doesn't really take into context, common sense, and just things that we take for granted, especially when you want things written around a specific topic. So, for example, when you want to talk to ChatGPT about a really niche topic or something that hasn't been extensively documented online, you cannot be 100% confident with the answers it gives you or the accuracies of what it gives you back. That's because these large language models can only parrot, they can only mimic what they've seen before and patterns of language that they've seen before. The training data, you have to understand, is capped. It stops at a certain point. For example, for the first 2 years almost of ChatGPT being released, its training data was only available until the year 2021. So you were not able to get any sort of recent information, you weren't able to get news or any recent sort of scientific breakthroughs. Now this is much less common. Now it's usually up to date, and ChatGPT, OpenAI, and its competitors launch new updates to their knowledge base every 3 to 6 months. And some other limitations that ChatGPT does have is when it gets into research topics or even when it gets into things that are in higher education. Teachers and educators can't really use it to come up with new breakthroughs, but more simply it can do summaries, transcriptions, and give new perspectives to things that it is already familiar with. So these are a couple of the limitations of these tools, but the benefits of using ChatGPT and other large language models and other AI tools is far greater. So when you want to get into using these tools, let's start to look at how we can use it to help with our creativity. It can write poems, it can come up with ideas and tell stories, and it can even come up with clever lines for your marketing. For example, if you're stuck with what to write on a birthday card, or you want to give somebody a compliment online, then it can come up with a couple of great ideas for you, and the possibilities are endless. I'm always surprised with what it comes up with. This is also really applicable when you're in the business world. It can help you draft lengthy emails, reword what you've already done, and it can even take over your responses to clients. Currently, there are big waves being made in sales and customer service with large language models completely taking over human roles. But we're not quite there yet. What you need to understand now is that when you're using ChatGPT and other large language models, you need to use it as a tool in your tool belt. It can't do everything, and you need to piece together the results that it gives you with your own logical, strategic thinking to be superhuman. This comes into talking about how you can actually use it. You need to be specific when you're using ChatGPT. You cannot just say, explain the French Revolution to me. You need to say, explain parts of the French Revolution to me in this key pivotal battle. Now, I don't know much about this topic, but you get the idea. You also need to remember to double check for the critical information that GPT is giving you. Remember, we said that it's based on the probability of a word being next. It has no way to fact check its own answers, and it's going to give you some wrong information with 100% confidence. So it's really advised that you look at the sources and you check what the training data has included. This requires a little bit more effort, but it is really simple to do, and there's tons of ways that you can find this information online. Additionally, ChatGPT doesn't really have any sort of real-world understanding. So it generates responses based purely on the patterns it's seen before. So you really need to keep this in mind. And larger language models shouldn't be used if you're handling anything that's personal, anything that requires emotional intelligence, or anything that is of critical importance that requires a fully logical reasoning and human brain. So I hope that kind of gives you the groundwork for what we're going to be looking at over the next couple of modules. It's going to be really easy for us to start to dig in, looking at how we can prompt these different sorts of tools and how we can use them in areas such as education, the creative arts, and how we can start to optimize workflows in our professional life to enter into this new age of technology. Thanks. All right, everyone, welcome back. What we're going to do in this module is talk about how we can actually use ChatGPT. And this is going to be a little more hands-on, but don't worry, there's not going to be anything that you can't handle because we're going to use it effectively. And basically what this means is we're going to be exploring some of the really core concepts that are part of this software. This means how we can use it just for daily use, how we can use it to help us be more creative, and how we can use it in a much more proactive business setting. And so some of the basics we're going to look at is how do we actually access the platform, how do we log in successfully, and how do we really create a strong first prompt. Because when you understand what prompting is and how it effectively returns better results, you're going to start to see how you can create really creative applications. So let's dive in. We're going to look over here on my screen, and it's going to be really easy to see. This is the ChatGPT home screen. So this will pop up automatically. You can come in here, and I already have an account. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click log in. Now, if you've never used it before, don't worry. It's simple. You can come in here, and I'm actually going to click sign up, so why not? Maybe you can say, we'll enter an email. Sometimes it will ask you to link to Google. And let's hide that password. And when you're in here, what you're going to see is the whole screen. You're going to have a chat bar at the bottom. Okay, let's open our email. You're going to have basically a chat bar at the bottom, and you've all done this before. You've been in a chat window, and it's going to be really easy to see how it works. So now that we're back, I can enter my name, and we can enter a birthday. I know I look younger, but that's actually how old I am. So, so now we're actually in the application. You can put in these different dark modes, and so let's try a prompt. I'm going to say, give me tips to optimize my day. And what's great is even if you make a spelling mistake, it's going to be comfortable enough. Yeah. And so when we click give me tips for my day, it's actually going to make some really strong suggestions. But when we start to add a little bit more nuance and information, we're going to get much better results. So you see here, a lot of these are really general and they may or may not be relevant to you. Just tell me tips to optimize my day. But if you're actually an expert in something, you can enter that and you'll get better information. So what you input in a prompt really makes a big difference in the response that you get. The prompt is basically an explanation of a task that you'd like the AI to do. And some problems that people run into is a vague prompt. You can see the difference. It's even giving us time boxes now. This is a strong prompt. It's not vague. If we just say something vague like, give me a fact about tech, this could literally be anything. But maybe that's not your field. So what if we say, give me a fact about embedded circuits in tech? The thing is this basically has all of the information on the internet and it can retrieve it for you. It just can't infer what you mean. It can't guess what you're saying. You know how people say, you know what I mean? A computer can never really do that because it hasn't had the experiences. So when you're using these tools, it's mandatory that you use clear, concise prompts that explain exactly what you want to have inside of the application. So let's look at a couple of more examples of what good prompts are and what bad prompts are. Now, a great part about this is we have one chat here. In the top left corner, we can click and we can start another chat. So let's look at a poor prompt. We're not really getting into it in any specific realm right now, but if we just say, write me a story, it will write you a story, and it's actually going to be really great. Okay, so we're getting some quantum entanglement theory here. And it actually seems like a pretty dark story. But see, this isn't really what I wanted. Write me a science fiction child's story that is going to encourage my child to be the best version of themselves. Make sure that it is only one paragraph long and a girl age 8 is the main character. Keep it positive. And so we're really going to see how different this gets. Like Lumina, that is a great name for a child. And you're going to see how Skyweaver, that's also a great name for a science fiction story. And see, you're also starting to see how we can be a bit more creative with this. You see, ChatGPT isn't just for answering any sort of boring questions about science and math. It's a powerful tool for creativity because on the one hand, it can do a lot of the bulk work for you and it can help you come up with concepts for storytelling. So something we can do is we can ask ChatGPT to help us brainstorm story ideas. We can do another chat for that. And see, we're not really giving it any sort of examples, so it's just going to come up with anything. And so we can come in here and we can say, write a 3-paragraph story about a dragon that falls in love in the style of George R.R. Martin and Game of Thrones. And see, make sure it's a clever prose. And so now we can really get in here and we can give it tips and tricks and recommendations on style, preferences, tone, and mood, which is really something that can get us custom made results that sound just like us or something that we really want. And so look at this, Dragon Tour, where the molten rivers of the earth and the endless sky lived, Vera Mithrax, the crimson flame. This sounds exactly like Game of Thrones, and so when you're using these tools, you're going to get incredible results as long as you're specific and as long as you can explain the result that you're looking to get from this. If you are vague and you're not really being specific or you don't know what you want, it will just give you anything. And it has the entire store of the internet to pull from, which means you may not necessarily get what you want. And so we can go in here and we can even say, ignore the free plan. We can even say, turn this into a song for me. And so you can just take some sort of fundamental and really basic idea and take it to the moon and really recraft it into something that you really like, that can help you explore all of your artistic directions. But that's not just it. It does more than just help you organize your day, automate parts of your workflow, and help you come up with catchy song lyrics. ChatGPT isn't all about work. There are some fun use cases as well. We can start a new chat and we can say, give me ideas to prank my roommates. And these are all classics. If we want something a little more practical, help me with a fun 20 questions game. See, I didn't say that I actually wanted to play the game. Okay, it's just explaining the rules. Let's play 20 questions for Seinfeld. Is it a character from Seinfeld? Yes. So it's going to try to guess. And I'm not being really creative. And so it's going to say it's Jerry. Right? So these kinds of things go on and on and on. And so something else we can do, it's like, I need motivation in the morning. Give me a pirate-themed quote to stir my passions. And this can do whatever you want, anything word related. Large language models, that's why they have that name. So let's really talk about some best practices. Something you really want to keep in mind in terms of how you should engage with large language models and specifically ChatGPT. The first thing is you should always be as specific as possible. You should always be providing clear, detailed prompts, and the more that you enter, the better the results that you're going to get. Sometimes you'll have to write an entire paragraph to get just what you want, but it's far easier than having to do all the work yourself. Something you should also do is understand that the first result you get may not be the best result. Be confident and comfortable asking ChatGPT to give you results again. The third thing is you need to check accuracy. Check accuracy when you're doing things that are related with factual information, related to financials, or related to your business. Because something we'll talk about later is hallucination. This is when ChatGPT will just make up information because it sounds good. You need to really make sure that you are the definitive authority when you're getting information on a specific and important topic. And with these at the front of your mind, we're going to be able to make ChatGPT work much more effectively for us in nearly any task. So get in there, go ahead and give it a try. The app is free to use up until a certain limit, and then we can move on to our next steps. Now that we're finished with knowing how ChatGPT works on a fundamental level and you can access the platform, we can really go in here and start to craft really dynamic, exciting, and powerful prompts that will explore the limits and really push the capabilities of what we can do with ChatGPT. So get in there, start experimenting, start having fun, and very quickly you're going to be able to find ways that this tool is going to be able to optimize your life and really improve what you're already doing. It's going to take hours off of your day in terms of writing, especially when you want to invest in strategies for long-term success, automations, and integrating ChatGPT into workflows like project management or content creation. So I'll see you next time. All right, everyone, welcome back, where we're going to talk about some of the limitations and restrictions with using ChatGPT. It's important to take the time to recognize the boundaries when using these softwares, because while it is the most advanced piece of technology that humanity has ever built, and it's the culmination of who we are as a society and as a people, it still can't do everything. So what we're going to do is show you how you can navigate some of these shortfalls and how you're going to be able to get around them effectively. And so it's important to know how to identify when it gets things wrong and how to verify the output and find ways to improve the quality of maybe some responses you've been getting that aren't quite at 100%. One of the ways we can do that is through better prompts, but by the end, you're going to be better equipped to use ChatGPT confidently and apply critical results and get critically important results. And so when ChatGPT gets something wrong, it's because it doesn't really have contextual understanding and it doesn't really have that same sort of common sense that people has. Because just like any other tool, it has its limitations. And so we're going to talk about 3 common areas where ChatGPT might be falling short for you. The first one is outdated information. Like we discussed earlier, there are periods of time that these large language models need to train and collect information off of the web. So what you get is not necessarily going to be up to date. It may be months or sometimes even years old. Now, as time progresses, this will improve. Right now, OpenAI, Anthropic, and other companies like that release updates every 3 to 6 months. But there's always going to be our second problem, which is hallucinations, which is where ChatGPT or other large language models literally makes up answers to your questions. And they might sound convincing, they might even seem to be the right answer, but they're completely inaccurate. This is just something that it does. And this is tied into our third key that we need to look out for, which is overconfidence. While the present information may be incorrect, it will always convey it in a very confident way. There's nothing else to pick up on to know whether it's right or wrong unless you really know how to do research on the spot. So it's important to be aware of these limitations so you can critically evaluate ChatGPT's responses and know if you're getting the right answer or not. Because when you get the right answer, you're going to really be able to take this tool to the next level. And so let me talk real quick about recognizing these red flags. So how do you know when ChatGPT is wrong? Looking out for a few key indicators is going to be your best bet, and they're easy to work with. So the first one that you want to look out for is conflicting information. Sometimes ChatGPT will give you long paragraphs of text, and what you want to do is look to make sure that the message and the answer given to you at the beginning is congruent with what's at the end. This is going to be easy to find. The second one is you need to be cautious. Just provide general caution, because although it can sound authoritative and extremely confident, it may not be the right answer. And the last thing that you need to look out for is vagueness. This is something that is really common because these things are just meant to spit out as much text as possible in some cases. And so when you ask for information, take an extra second to look to see if it goes into the details, because it may be giving you something that you don't really need, that is not actually applicable because it's so vague. And so keep in mind that there will be times in the future where these won't show up, but there's always a chance. So it's important that you verify your sources and you double check the outputs that you're getting from ChatGPT. So let's take a second to talk about how exactly do you verify these outputs. Verification of your responses is a critical step, and it is very important when you're working with ChatGPT. And so here's how you can see if these generated text responses need verification. The first thing is you should always double check with a verified source. There are plenty of reliable websites, journals, and official publications in any area that you can use to confirm these facts. For example, ChatGPT provides a scientific metric or some sort of claim. It is going to be very easy to use a reputable source like some sort of government website or educational resources to make sure that this is accurate. You can even see if there's a link that ChatGPT has used. You're going to want to look and confirm supporting details. Sometimes ChatGPT is going to give you a response that is incomplete. You're more than welcome to follow up with an additional prompt that asks it to give you additional information. If the first claim is not sound and accurate, the follow-up responses are not going to make sense, and that's a dead giveaway. The last red flag, is the sources that it gives you. You need to look at all of the sources that ChatGPT says that it used in order to give you a response, and they all should come from the same place. I've seen it happen before where one is from a marine biology journal and the other one is from geological. These two sources don't really match. And so the easiest way that I find to make sure that your prompt responses are accurate and you're using these tools correctly is to have a downloadable checklist. We've put together a list for you that you can just very quickly go through to verify this AI content. And it's not a long list. I'm going to guide you through how you can verify the responses that you're getting and how you can identify these red flags to know if you can use this prompt response outside of the application itself. So the first thing that you need to do on the checklist is evaluate the response. More specifically, is it logical and reasonable? Does it have common sense? The second one is identify any specific claims made, because you're going to need to cross-check those. And then that is also going to go into the third one, which is just cross-check any facts that you're getting. Verify the accuracy of the claim. And 4 is assess the credibility. These tools have great options now to ask for the official sources, and they'll link you to the page. Go to the page and make sure that the information it's giving you is accurate. Number 5 is ask follow-up questions. This will both allow you to refine your prompt and to understand the complete context that is giving you the answer in. So this complete checklist is really going to help you ensure that the information you're using is accurate. And whether it's for work, for study, or for personal projects, you can download this checklist and you can keep it handy for when you're working with ChatGPT and the future use that you're going to be getting out of this tool. So we've covered the checklist, we've talked about some red flags to look out for, and we've looked at some common mistakes. Now, if you're satisfied with ChatGPT's responses, troubleshooting is something that you don't really have to do, but there will be times where troubleshooting and improving what you're doing can make a huge difference. So we're going to talk about a couple of strategies here. If you're not getting the response you want, something you can do is rephrase your prompt. See if there's a different way to word what you've already said, or go into more detail with what you've already said. An example is, tell me more about dogs. That doesn't really count. Tell me more about German Shepherds. Be more specific. Say, what are the top 5 breeds of dogs that my kids would like the most? This leads into the other one. Provide more context. You're not getting the results because you're not being as specific as possible. Remember, it's trained on all of the information on the internet. So it can pull words out of nowhere. So instead of saying, explain the concept of photosynthesis, say, explain the concept of a photosynthesis to a 12-year-old for a presentation that I'm giving in class tomorrow as the teacher. This leads us to the third one, which is don't be too complex. Ask a series of small, more simple questions that will lead to far greater returns in the end, just like a conversation. And so with these changes, you can make things much more simple and much more clear to ChatGPT so you can get more accurate results. So why don't we take a second and talk about some examples of ineffective versus improved prompts. We don't need to go on the computer. I know you have ChatGPT in front of you. So let's just take a second and talk about some examples and needed improvements and how you can refine them. This is getting important. So let's talk about what an ineffective prompt is. Tell me about the moon today. Bad prompt. What you want to do for an improved prompt is explain the phases of the moon in 5 sentences for a beginner audience that are interested in learning about this subject. Here's another ineffective prompt. Write a poem for my wife. An improved prompt would be write a 4-line poem about love, romance, and do it in a cheerful tone that I know a woman above 50 will enjoy. An ineffective prompt. What is artificial intelligence? You're going to get a lot back. But here's an improved prompt. Give me a beginner-friendly explanation about artificial intelligence with examples of how it's used in the real world, and take some extra time to talk about the different components and technologies used. Being specific makes a big difference, and it helps ChatGPT provide more tailored and accurate information that you can actually use. And so now that you know the basics and some problems, it's time to do some experimentation with prompts. Experimentation is a great way to explore new tools like ChatGPT. There's tons of capabilities that you can get into, but here are just a few tips that will get you started. Start working with different formats for your responses. Try asking for lists, step-by-step guides, tables, X versus Y. Ask for it in Markdown and different programming languages. Like an awesome example is list 5 beneficial benefits of meditation. So, number 2 is refine the responses. After you already get a response, take a little extra time to ask for more information. Ask it to clarify on a specific point that is given you in a response. Instead of just saying, can you expand on these 3 points in more detail, you can say, can you expand on these 3 principles to the point where it can be used in an additional course coming up. The third side that you can use, the third point for experimentation, is get creative. See what you can do in terms of short stories. See if you can talk about some creative ideas that you have and how to bring them into life. Because the great part is with this experimentation, you're going to be able to mix creativity and technical know-how, real world knowledge with fantasy. And when you can get in this place where you understand how to use the tool, you'll find that it's very easy to get it precisely dialed into your needs to the point where it gets you exactly what you want every time. And so now we're at the point where we're ready to recap what we talked about today. And so here are your key takeaways from this module. What we want to remember is that ChatGPT is a powerful tool, probably the most powerful out there, but it does have limitations, such as an outdated knowledge base and the occasional errors. Because of this, it's important that you should always verify and be responsible and look at trusted sources when you're getting factual information or any sort of specifics from these large language models. You can improve the quality of the responses that you get by creating detailed and specific prompts. The more information, the better. And the last one is to have fun, do some experimentation, and find what gets the best results for you. And finally, remember that we have a downloadable verification checklist that you can use to make sure that you don't miss anything and you're always getting the best information. With these skills, you're going to be able to use ChatGPT effectively and responsibly. And We're going to talk about this in the next module where we're going to explore advanced techniques to further enhance your prompts. And we're also going to be talking about what it means to responsibly use these tools in today's world. Thank you.